My fingers drummed weakly against my thigh, palms sweating onto my cheap jeans as the committee's verdict echoed across the cramped university office. 4 professors sat behind their table, arranged like a jury. I recognized all of them. Professor Roman, face pinched, glasses glinting. Lucia, her hand writing notes, but her eyes boring into me as if already marking me with a red X. The window behind them let in the harsh Madrid noon, stacked bands of sunlight carving the bookshelves and making my eyes ache. Señor Alvarez, Professor Roman intoned, I trust you've considered the practical applications of your thesis. These, self-learning models, well, it's all theory, isn't it? Far-fetched for our department and frankly unnecessary. His tone was flat, but the curl at the edge of his mouth was worse than any raised voice. He looked at the other committee members, mouths pinched, skirts and suits, crisp and distant from the jeans and hoodie I wore. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it might split me apart. I believe the computational proofs, I began, swallowing even though my throat was dry. He cut me off. And who would fund such research? Who in Spain cares to invest in imaginary minds? Lucia barely glanced up. Madrid has enough programmers. What we need are real engineers, not fantasists. Is there anything else you want to defend before we conclude, Señor Alvarez? I shook my head, suddenly aware of the coffee stain on my sleeve. When I stepped into the cool corridor, swallowed by the smell of pencil shavings and disinfectant, their laughter floated after me. A dismissive, almost entertained sound. Not angry, worse. My steps echoed on the polished floor as I navigated past undergrads, through posters selling tickets to parties I'd never attend. My mother was waiting outside, hands wrapped tightly around her purse. She pressed her lips together, tipping her chin up to meet my eyes. How did it go? She asked. I told her it hadn't gone well. She nodded, as if she'd known that all along. On the way home, the city was blinding. Madrid always felt too bright, especially when things went wrong. At dinner that night, under buzzing lights in our small apartment, my Uncle Lalo wheezed out a grunt when I told the family. Artificial intelligence, huh? He said, smirking at my mother. Why not write code for the bank, eh? Or cell phones? But no. David will build robots that think. You should come help me at the shop. Learn something useful. My little cousin Maria giggled, sharing a knowing look with her older sister. Even my grandmother pursed her lips, stirring her soup and muttering under her breath about wasting God's gifts. I was humiliated, cheeks hot, but I found I couldn't speak. There were no words big enough to explain the ache in my chest, that the dream meant more than the rejection stung. I tried to eat, but the food barely had taste. The next weeks were worse. I tried picking up my research in secret, stealing hours at night while Lalo grunted on the sofa watching television down the hall. But the laughter from the committee, cruel and bored, rattled in my bones. Funding was non-existent. My inbox filled with rejections. Another email, David? Lalo asked whenever he heard my phone buzz. Looking for spaceship jobs again? My mother tried to soften things. She brought me coffee, patted my shoulder, but she wouldn't meet my eyes. You are clever, hijo. Maybe you could tutor, huh? Or computer maintenance? Something real? My friends from university moved on, some into stable jobs at the bank, others left the country. In Madrid, my world shrank. Sometimes in bed at night, I listened to the traffic on Calle de Alcalá and tried to convince myself the dream wasn't ridiculous. But the city moved on without me. I got a series of temp jobs, fixing printers for a law office, logging invoices in a dusty warehouse. Nights, I read online papers, chasing advances in machine learning, poring over the success stories from Silicon Valley and Israel and China. Their breakthroughs felt remote, like stars outside my window. I built my own models on a battered laptop that overheated if I ran experiments for more than an hour. I cut corners, piecing together code from open-source projects, scraping together money for electricity. My uncle's laughter stuck like a pebble in my shoe. A year passed, then another, and every family gathering, I saw the skepticism harden. My dream was little more than a punchline. The breakthrough came out of stubbornness more than genius. I was rewriting a convolutional neural net, trying to teach my model how to classify hand-drawn Spanish glyphs, when I realized an unused dataset could simplify the structure. Results came slow, crude, but promising. I posted my papers online, translated them into English. Nobody read them at first. I was a ghost. But one quiet Thursday, my email chimed. It was an AI startup in Berlin. The CEO, a Portuguese woman named Sophia, had found my research on a late-night hunt for collaborators. "We are looking for someone who understands low-resource training," her email read. "Your multilingual model is unique. Are you available for a video call?" I replied immediately. The call was awkward. I stammered, my internet lagged, and my English came out strange and formal. But Sophia was patient. She wanted evidence. I showed her the code. The next week, she offered me a remote contract. Modest pay, but more than I'd ever made fixing printers. At dinner, my announcement was met with silence. My mother smiled, unsure. "A startup? On the internet? Be careful," she said. But Lalo only grunted. "So, you will get paid to play with robots at home now, is that it?" I nodded. "Bueno, just don't expect it to last." I worked, and the months rolled on. My code worked. The company's app took off in Central Europe, then spread to Latin America. Sophia promoted me. I started speaking at conferences, first in Lisbon, then in London. My English improved. I started sending real money home. 3 years into the project, Sophia called again. "David, we want you in Berlin permanently. Head of AI." I moved. The city was gray, cold, but welcoming. Outside my apartment, trains rattled through the night. At the office, my team doubled, and when our speech recognition model finally outperformed Google on underrepresented dialects, we celebrated until sunrise. Newspapers wrote about us. Investors came knocking. Sometimes I missed Madrid. I missed the blunt sun, the laughter of my cousin Maria, the hum of Spanish in every alley. But Berlin treated me kindly. The money grew, so did my pride. When my name appeared in an AI journal beside leaders I used to idolize, I printed the pages and mailed them to my mother. She called, her voice trembling. "They're saying your name in church, David. Even Lalo brags about you now." I laughed, but deep in my chest, the old humiliation still flickered. When Sophia decided to open a new European office, Madrid was the obvious choice. I lobbied hard. "We have so much untapped talent," I told her. "Every engineer in Spain is leaving for abroad. Let's bring the opportunities home." Sophia trusted me. She sent me with a tentative budget and her blessing. When I landed, Madrid felt smaller, wrinkled and faded somehow, but still noisy and filled with light. My mother met me at the terminal, holding a sign with my name as a joke, like when I was a little boy. She hugged me, close and tight, and whispered, "Told you, you always belonged here." We drove through the old neighborhood. The bakery was gone, replaced by a cafe advertising craft beer, but the butcher's was still there. Lalo's shop, too. He still sold odds and ends, cables, light bulbs, cheap radios. I walked in, saw him behind the counter, brow furrowed in concentration. For a moment, he didn't recognize me. "David?" He looked older, less sure. I smiled and hugged him. He patted my back, stiff and awkward, then pulled away. "You look like you've eaten well in Germany," he said, and I could hear pride trying to hide behind the jab. I spent weeks setting up our satellite office. We leased half a floor in a broad glass building near Atocha Station. I interviewed engineers, 20-somethings from Malaga, and Valencia, and Seville, all with the same hungry eyes I used to have. I wore pressed shirts, spoke in branching Spanish and English. Sometimes, at night, I'd cycle past my old university, the hallways still filled with tired chairs and the echo of my own footsteps. We scheduled our launch event for the end of May. I invited my family and quietly sent invitations to the university committee. My name was on the program. David Alvarez, Director de Inteligencia Artificial, Synapse Europe. The night of the event, Madrid felt thick with summer. The office glimmered, full of suits and dresses. Catering trays groaned with tortilla, jamón, and wine. Sophia flew in, wearing her signature red blazer. When she saw me, she hugged me and whispered, "Look at you, Jefe." 10 minutes before my speech, my mother arrived. She was wearing a new dress, blue and floral. Maria and her sister trailed after her, now taller than me. Even Lalo put on a shirt without stains. They shuffled in, eyes wide at the marble and glass, the enormous Synapse sign. The hum of laughter bouncing among the banners. And then I saw them, Professor Roman and Lucia, trailing at the back, their faces pinched but curious. They nodded when I shook their hands, their smiles uncertain. I took the podium, the microphone in my fist. The crowd stilled, my heart pounded in the exact same rhythm as it had years before, facing down Roman's skepticism, Lucia's cold gaze. "Gracias a todos," I began, voice wavering for a split second before I steadied. I told them I was a kid from Madrid. Laughed about eating nothing but lentils and instant coffee at university, tinkering with code instead of going to parties.